Super straightforward. There's not really much. Hold on. Am I allowed to cuss? Oh damn! I've been filtering my shit the whole time. Oh lord, that it was taking work too. My name is Brooke Shaw. I'm 20 years old. From Ottawa, Ontario, Jamaican Ukrainian. I do poetry. I'm also founder of a nonprofit, Shorties for Change, and I would say I do everything. I do a lot. Try to do a lot.
Let's start off with talking about your nonprofit.
Okay. Shorties for Change. We started up in 2020 in the summer. We were like a collective of women. We made a group chat with each other before, just to a bunch of women of color, young women as well. And we kind of just wanted a group where we could send each other memes, go to each other for advice, touch base, like a safe place almost. And we were already doing a bunch of work individually, in other groups, etc. And I had the idea, I was like, why don't we just continue to do our work, but actually put a name behind it? So we got a pretty good basis going. I would say it's more of a coalition. So we have our set founders, but basically a bunch of people who are ready to help at any time. And what we do is we focus on grassroots help, meaning we want to strengthen the community. We don't have the tools to change systems or abolish them, but what we can focus on is strengthening people in our community so they have the tools to navigate those systems. Because again, you have other people in bigger positions who are working on all that. So we will focus a lot on just feel-good events. We do events about hair, art, makeup, mental health, sexual education, schooling, etc. So yeah, that's basically, I would say, what we focus on doing. I would say, okay, so she gets a lot of love, but I really want to say like a Beyonce or Nicki Minaj, and the only reason why I'll say that is because they're really a martyr for, maybe not martyr is not the right word, but they are iconic, especially for Black women. I find Black women are, you've heard it before, like the most hated, the most picked on, etc. And they've instilled a great amount of confidence into little Black girls and big Black women as well. They have consistently proven that, number one, you don't have to be apologetic. You have a truth, you can speak it, and that you can actually do things. You can do things. You don't have to live in the confines of what other people tell you that you need to be doing. You don't have to fit that mold. And then also, there's a lot of reclamation in being ghetto, in being what Black women are usually demonized for, being sexual, you know what I mean? Like they reclaim that and they put a power behind it. And they show that you're doing just fine just by existing. I think it speaks to a lot of the fact that these women can listen to these artists, Beyonce and Nicki Minaj, and feel very confident afterwards or during. Yeah, so I would say definitely they do get love. That's my only thing I would say. Nicki is debatable. It's debatable, does she get love outside of her fan base? But that especially Beyonce, for the way that she advocates for Black power really shamelessly there. I appreciate that. She kind of intimidates people. She has people shaking in their boots over it, and I like that. I like music that can do that.
You have like a favorite sub-music?
Yeah, my top two, just because they're on very opposite ends of the scale, would be psychedelic rock. I like stuff that you can listen to it and you don't have to be on anything, but you feel like you are. You know what I mean? It's very interesting how music can replicate the effects of psychedelics, even down to the certain instruments that are used. So I think that's very interesting. It brings me a lot of peace and serenity. So that, I really love that. And on the opposite end of that scale, I would say alternative rap. I like that because I like the notion that Black people can be weird. Black people can be weird, and a lot of these alternative rap boys they get hated on a little bit for, you know what I mean? If you go out and you're rapping, but there's a little bit of metal guitar in the back. I know NBA Youngboy did it when he sampled like Dirty Diana, whatever. But in general, it's not a very loved group. So I really appreciate that and what they do, because there is a huge, Black people can be anything. Black people can be alternative. There's a big alternative scene, but I don't feel like they get that love. And I think it's interesting too because they integrate a lot of different instruments into there. It's not just the straight 808. It's a very interesting flow, very interesting voice. So in general, I would say those two are my favorites for sure. It's very plain, but in the Tame Impala song, Yes, I'm Changing, he just says, they say that people never change, but that's bullshit, they do. He says it like really nicely too. He doesn't say it like that. So when he says the line, he draws it out and I'm like, it's really nice. But I actually didn't think, genuinely, I didn't think that people did change. And prior to that, and I heard the song, you hear over and over and over, and I started to kind of think about that line a little bit more. And the entirety of the song itself is quite literally about like, yes, you are the foundation of the person at the end of the day, but things change, situations change, people change. And keep in mind too, when I thought that it was years ago, the person I am now, I think you can do a complete 180 in who you are. But I like that line a lot because I quite literally used to be that person that said that people can't change. Yeah. Shoot, I would have to check my phone for that. Okay, because I know I have it saved. In terms of a line or something that really makes me feel something, I wrote a whole poem about, I really liked somebody. I wasn't in love, but I really liked them. But there was a line in there that felt to me like the truest essence of love. And what I had said was, I like you so much that you can never waste my time because at least I can say that I've loved you once in this life. So all to say that when you are detached from the outcome and you're fully immersed in the experience, because like I know that depending on how things go towards the end, if there's an end, it can change your outlook on the relationship itself. And a big part of that is people feel like they've wasted time. I feel like the true essence of love is that love was there and it was never a waste of time. No matter what, we got to spend that time and I got to meet you in this lifetime and I got to love you once, whether that's for a month or an eternity. So my time isn't wasted. That love still carries with me. So yeah, I like that one. I like that one a lot. Yeah.
Love music?
Yeah, I love music. The first time that I fell in love with music was Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City album. I remember I was probably in I think I was in grade 6 or so, and that was just my jam. I like that one because I didn't really clue into how you could tell stories with music before. And Kendrick Lamar has an incredible ability to tell an entire, that's talent. It's one thing, coming up with rhymes and whatnot, that's one thing. It's very difficult. But to tell a completely comprehensive story that has a meaning and a purpose behind it is insane to me. So that was the first time that I really fell in love with the art of it. In terms of wanting to listen to music all the time, it was also in grade 6, and it was my first time listening to Tame Impala Currents, which to this day I would say is my favorite album. And I cried. First listen, it was so funny because it was so old school. We had MP whatever at that point in life, but my friend gave me a CD and they're like, yo, you're gonna love it, happy birthday. And I threw it into a CD player and I don't know how many songs it took me in to start crying, but I just did. I've never cried. Music has never made me cry before. So the fact that I was brought to such an emotion over sounds, you know what I mean? That was pretty transformational for me. From that point on, I was like, no, it's not about hearing, it's about feeling it. Yeah. Yeah. Hip hop, what I love about hip hop, what's important about hip hop is it's a uniquely Black experience. So you can have people who are in hip hop who are not Black, and anyone can argue with this, but I don't think that you can replicate the culture, the emotion, the experience that goes into what hip hop is. You can try, but it's just that, it's a replication. You're not actually immersed in it. And hip hop too, people have a really big issue with talking about the guns and the drugs and the glorification of things. But I'm like, artists are speaking about experience. They're simply speaking about what they know. And I think it's interesting that people love to place responsibility in terms of crime rate and intelligence and the success of an entire generation onto hip hop. And I'm like, nah, I see what y'all are doing, what y'all have done before, is it's pointing the finger at black people. Instead of, you know, like music is one thing, but to say that that has more an effect, that the entirety of the future of crime and health and wellness of a society is placed in a genre of music rather than politics, things that actually affect the well-being of a society, such as affordable housing, education, proper employment, proper health care. All these things are in shambles, but it's hip-hop's responsibility, and it's hip-hop is why all these kids are killing themselves. No, these kids are killing each other and killing themselves because they're in the street life, and nobody goes to the street life because it's fun. It's hella scary, and these kids know that. But when you lock them out of a society, you get them in the system, you prevent them from having jobs, and then when they get a job, they're treated terribly because they're a visible minority. Yeah, I'm gonna turn to the street. I'm gonna turn to the street because I'm trying to make money. We know that people need money to live. So anyways, all to say, I could go on about this for days, but I just think that hip hop is a uniquely black experience. I think it's liberating. Revolutions have been documented and have been influenced by music countless times. If you take any human rights course or anything of that sort, you'll notice how music was used on the radio to send a message. You still have artists that are sending a message. You have artists that go and they rap about what they know, and then you have artists that are trying to let you know something. And we've also seen what happens to artists who are trying to tell you something because people understand the influence of music in that sense. So all to say, I would say that that's a beautiful thing about hip hop. It's very broad as well. It's like I said, it's not just an 808 beat. That's not what defines hip hop. Hip hop is also not just music. I'm talking about music, but hip hop is a complete culture. You know, when people talk about streetwear and different hairstyles and whatever, all that's hip hop. That's all hip hop. It's not solely black, so black people don't only have to live in the confines of hip hop, but that's quite literally our shit.